What's up, the world? This your boy Tommy Mav, and I just came in because I wanted to speak on the whole Shannon Sharpe, Skip Bayless situation. If you haven't heard, Shannon Sharpe is leaving FS1, supposedly, reportedly, which most people weren't surprised by. I think that after that whole situation, that last one, I think that they probably quietly agreed that he was done. He seemed like he was getting more and more agitated with Skip, and I think that Shannon has far-reaching relationships and stuff like that Skip tends to make it hard to maintain because of the way he acts. So, and the things that he says. I think that Shannon Sharpe, I think, just doesn't. I don't think he likes that type of situation where he's constantly dealing with topics and stuff like that he talks about that ends up putting him in bad positions. But Shannon gonna be missed. I part of me's happy because I don't have to watch Undisputed anymore. I really only watch Undisputed for Shannon Sharpe. I generally don't even listen to Skip's part. Most of the time, because Skip says the same shit every time. You know what I mean? He always finds some player he doesn't like, and it doesn't matter how good they do. He blames them for everything. It's just old hat at this point. It's like when I get to a point where I know what you're gonna say before you say it, then there's no point in me listening to you talk no more because I already know what you're about to say. So Skip's at that point now where it's like he's a caricature of himself, and it's like I don't think most people want to watch it. And Shannon, to me, it just comes off like he's at a point where he's just like, look, dude, I think the writing was on the wall a long time ago, and I think if the reports are true, that it was probably because of the situations that they went to before. And this is the problem I have, right? Because if Shannon did do that and he was kind of shamed into kind of giving up giving up a large platform that he had, that he created, because people kind of mess with his pride. I think that's kind of they kind of lose a little bit of respect for him, if that is the truth. If he did it because he truly just felt disrespected and he felt like Skip would never respect him in the way that he feels like he should be respected, then I have more respect for him. So it just depends on why he left. But there's no doubt, without Shannon, that show's gonna suck. I think most people hate Skip, so most people show up to see him be put in his place. You put another guy on there, no matter how good he is, he's gonna be trying to mimic Shannon Sharpe, which I think the difference between Shannon Sharpe and Stephen A. Smith is, Max and a Shannon. What made them different is Max did not do what Skip did, right? Max came in with his own way of dealing with it. They still kind of had a conflict, but for the most part, Max spoke from the heart a lot of times, and he wasn't trying to be Skip. He was just speaking. Same thing with Shannon. Shannon came in, and Shannon was Shannon. He never tried to be Stephen A. And as time went over, he stayed Shannon. Shannon became a star because of the way he acted. It's just the way Shannon was, which went off into Club Shay Shay, and Club Shay Shay is more popular on the internet than Undisputed is. He has all types of connections. He talks to all types of people. He has a completely different demographic, and I think that, to be 100% honest, Shannon can go and do a show by itself, and just bring in a mediator who doesn't even really got to mediate. He just has to have someone he can bounce off of, a straight man. It can be a woman or a man, and as long as he can bounce, he can be a straight man to that person. I think that he could definitely find a spot for himself anywhere. I mean, ESPN would probably pay him crazy money for him to go there, and like I said before, I mean, he would take a large chunk of that audience if he went to ESPN. They already saying Pat McAfee's leaving. That's the young white demographic. If Shannon leaves, he's gonna get the young black demographic, and ESPN will be on good terms. But do I think? I think he's probably gonna go more the Marcellus Wiley route, and just do it that way, where he just does everything independently. And I think he's gonna have a humongous following. But like I said before, if he chose to go the route of just signing somewhere else, like if he stayed at FS1, he would make a killing. If he went to ESPN, he would make a killing. I mean, if they're paying Stephen A. $5 million a year, and Skip just got I think they're paying Stephen A. $5. If they paying Stephen A. $5, I don't think that would make sense. But I think that's around what they're paying him. Skip just signed an extension that's worth $5 million. I think that right now Shannon would be better off going somewhere else where he's going to be able to he has complete ownership over Club Shay Shay, so that's already making him a lot of money. He has his wine business, which is also making him a lot of money. So he may just be wanting to chill and just do Club Shay Shay. But Undisputed, my mindset is that Shannon probably just it's early, you know what I mean? And when you're running all types of businesses, it's hard to try to meet that every day where you're waking up really early in the morning. So my opinion or my guess is that if he does, he'll probably get a later show, which I think Skip will find his niche, right? He has his nut job Jordan fans who will follow him anywhere as long as he criticizes LeBron most of. And yeah, that's the older conservative white demographic and the older conservative black demographic. So I think that those people Skip will maintain. He's going to have a real hard time getting the younger demographics, both white and black, and I don't know who he's going to get. I think it would be another black person because he has to be able to spar and go back and forth with them on issues. I'm more interesting, which he probably wouldn't do it because he's probably his schedule is more packed. Is bringing in a guy like a rapper Nelly. I think Nelly and him will work well together, but Nelly seems like he's not really into it right now. But Nelly's a name that he started out on the show and then he stopped for a little bit. But I think that Nelly is a very, very, very funny guy, and I think the stuff that he speaks on is similar. He has his own little niche that's apart from Shannon. So I think Nelly would be a good fit, but I don't think Nelly's gonna do it because he had a hard time keeping that schedule before, which is one reason why he left FS1. And then he had the whole sexual assault thing that he beat, but I think also Shannon had a sexual assault case, so I don't really know. But at the end of the day, I think that would be probably his best replacement. Other than that, I can't see anybody else being there and that show not taking a nosedive. I don't think people give two craps about Skip at this point. He's been on TV for years, and only people who want to see him is a fringe audience that likes people to criticize LeBron. But he also criticizes Luka. So that same white demographic that most of the time is conservative and a little on the racist side, they don't like that you're talking about Luka Doncic. So you kind of lose what you gain. They also like Steph Curry. The middle-aged conservative guys, the black ones, you like Steph Curry, and he tends to be harsh on Steph Curry. So it's like no true loyalty there. So I think he's going to struggle mightily without Shannon there to kind of water down what he says and or combat what he says. I think whoever comes in is going to be a second fiddle. And because they're a second fiddle and they understand that their job is they're in a precarious position with their job. They're not going to challenge Skip in the way that Shannon challenged Skip. And it's not going to have the same chemistry. Him and Skip have a natural chemistry where Shannon has a loud personality. Skip has a loud personality, but Skip is loud in a different way than Shannon is. Shannon is more overtly funny, charismatic, all these things that Skip is not. Skip is not charismatic. He is not, he doesn't have like a uncly presence or a presence that makes you Shannon lacks coof. He's funny. He's just naturally funny, and when he speaks, he naturally says funny things, and you're not going to be able to replace that with some random guy. It's going to be a hard position for anybody to be in because Shannon's a hard act to follow. There's a reason why most of the days that Shannon couldn't go, Skip usually didn't go either, because it's not a show without Shannon. And I don't know what they're going to do, but I do know that without Shannon, they're in trouble. It's going to be real hard to keep those ratings. Like I said, Shannon takes a huge chunk, and I think they'll give him leeway. They'll give him a couple of months to try to figure it out, and then before they stick with a constant guy. But it doesn't matter whether it's constant or it's not. It's not going to change the fact that you're not going to be able to find another Shannon. Shannon is really one of a kind. You can find someone who may have a niche in a different way, but it's hard to pair somebody with Skip, right? If you put somebody like a Rob Parker there, then everybody will just turn it off because they hate the show because both of them are idiots. If you put somebody on there like Steve Broussard is a little more laid back. He's a little more cool. He says things in a more PC way and things of that nature. It's gonna be real hard to replace him with a guy like that. So you're really gonna be looking for a guy who has that loud personality, who sticks out. And I can't think of anybody. I mean, all these rappers and singers and old NBA guys. I mean, a guy like Gilbert Arenas, right? Him and Skip will never work because Gilbert doesn't have the same back and forth. He wouldn't have the same back and forth with Skip. And two, he's already got his thing that he's doing with his podcast already that's doing numbers. So I don't think maybe he would just for the case for a couple weeks or so. But looking for someone who would be able to replace Shannon Sharpe, I mean, maybe a guy like Cam Newton, maybe, because Cam Newton has this really loud personality, but Cam does not speak, and he's not working the same way. It's hard for somebody to replace Shannon because Shannon is so many things. He's not a comedian, but he's extremely funny. But he can be extremely articulate and introspectively when on a drop of a hat. He can speak up for issues in a way that people who are poor can, and he can respect. He can speak from a position of strength when he's talking about being successful in the things that he was able to accomplish, coming from being a 6th round pick to being a Hall of Famer. It's certain things that Shannon has. It's just going to be really hard to find and really hard to replace. But I think Skip made his own bed. You know what I mean? I think you have to be very careful in how you act towards people. Know your people. Yeah. Know your personnel. KYP. When you're dealing, this is what I try to tell people all the time. Like I worked for DCF for a long while, and you know what type of people you're around. You tend to start to be very, 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 very. What's the word? Like you start to realize these. You got to watch yourself, right? One thing working at DCF taught me is to have an unrealistic fear of kids, or I guess the word would be an unhealthy fear of kids, right? Anytime I feel like a kid is around, it's like I'm always on my P's and Q's. I'm always watching, because I feel like what you realize how quickly a person can be charged with something with very little evidence. You start to get this mindset that, oh snap, I didn't even pay attention to what's going on around me, because all it takes is somebody to say one thing about this or one thing about that, and your life could be ruined, right? And this happens all the time with kids. One parent doesn't like them, so they just say, oh, well, this guy did this, and I mean, so yeah, I don't think she should go over his house, and what it does is, like I said, it exposes how flawed the system is when it comes to those type of things. You know, a kid will come back later and like, oh, mommy told me to say this. Even after the kid will come back and be like, he didn't do that, I just made it up. It's too late at that point. They start to move forward. The person generally has a tarnished name, and that's it. So I'm very, 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 I have a very, very unhealthy fear of getting close with kids or being around kids, because I just feel like it's very, very dangerous. And when I say that, I mean, like, I try to be as adult or as professional as I can be, because at the end of the day, I don't know how things are going to turn out. And I think that's something that most people should do, you know, when it comes to dealing with kids that are not their own. It's like, you got to be very, very careful, because anything can mess your life up, and you never know where it's going to come from. Sometimes it came from people out. I mean, they made up stuff with people because they wanted the guy to be moved out of their parents' home. Sometimes they made up stuff because they kept getting in trouble, and they wanted to get their dad in trouble. It's a gambit. A bunch of times where, you know, where I had cases where this was said, and then the parent wanted extra, didn't want this parent to have visitation rights, so they just made something up. I've seen this over and over again. So I've been very, very, I don't even know if it's unhealthy, but it's very, very, I'm very, very suspicious about stuff like that, because I just feel like, because I've dealt with it and I understand how easily a charge can come up with very little evidence, that I'm very cognizant of that type of thing. And when you get to that point where you start to treat everybody a certain way because you're used to a certain outcome, or because you're programmed to act a certain way, I think at times you end up creating this chasm where you sometimes have this unhealthy fear of things. And what I got with Skip was, with him, when it came to him and Shannon, you can clearly see that the power dynamic was starting to change, right? Shannon was starting to be the headliner, right? More people were tuning in to watch Shannon and his antics and the things that he did, to the point that it started to get a little awkward between them. Skip was clearly trying to be more like Shannon, and I think it ended up kind of messing up the natural chemistry of things. And instead of Skip just continuing to just let the wave go, I think he started to push back against the wave, and a lot of times he started doing things that were disrespectful and things that put him in a bad position. And like the people in the cases I was talking about, when you put yourself in a bad position after the results come back, or after the consequences come, you can't turn around later and be like, well, I didn't know, I was just acting like me. Well, it's too late at that point. So you got to be very cognizant of how you present yourself, because when you present yourself, there's always somebody watching, right? There's always somebody paying attention. There's always somebody who's gonna take that. And this time it was the Shannon's core audience. After he did what he did, most people were watching it, and they don't give a crap if the accusation about Skip being a racist or looking down and this, that, and the third is true. They don't care. At this point, Skip's personality mixed in with the way he's acting, they don't need any confirmation. Just say, the way Skip is treating Shannon is like a subordinate. No respect in the things he says, over talking him, all these things. I think that is the thing that made people start to say Shannon should leave. And I think that Shannon is a proud man. And when you're sitting up there and you're talking, I think after he did that, and then the whole thing happened, he did the thing with the I think the writing was on the wall when he did the thing with the Tom Brady, and you're not on Tom Brady's level, and this, that, and the third. I think Skip made his bed there, and I was watching. Now Shannon can pretty much say what he wants, and people will buy it, because at this point, it's the optics of it. And it goes back to what I was saying. At this point, it doesn't matter if you did anything or not. If the optics of it look a weird way, there's always going to be somebody who's like, yeah, I kind of saw this and I kind of saw that, and it's weird. It's like, well, yeah, there's a normal relationship between a father and their daughter, or their father and their son. I don't really understand what is weird about that. But there's always somebody who's listening who has a messed up mind. And they're going to say that the fact that a person is hugging their son or their daughter, that it looks weird, because their parents never hugged them, or their parents never did certain things. It's the same thing when it comes to this show. It's like, because people talk to them in a weird way, it doesn't matter that Skip's not racist, or Skip's not this, or Skip's not that. It's the optics of it. So they're going to get into Shannon's ear, and after a while, I think Shannon just got to a point where he started to realize, I can do this, I don't need Skip. Skip needs me more than I need him. So at the end of the day, I mean, he has Club Shay Shay, he has all these things where he can do, and the power dynamic completely changed. People didn't tune in when Shannon, during that thing when Shannon decided to sit out. I know I didn't. I cut it off. After I realized Shannon wasn't going to be on there, I cut it off. And it's the same thing that's going to come down Undisputed. If Shannon's gone, I have no real need to watch it. I don't want to watch an unplugged Skip just going to work. And Skip tried to do his own little side shoot thing, and it's getting horrible numbers, because Skip is not a person that you generally want to listen to unfiltered. And without anybody there to keep him in check. He's like, what's that? If anybody knows anything about wrestling, right? There's a guy named what is his name? Vince Russo. But yeah, Vince Russo came and he was on WWF. But when he was on WWF, he had a guy named Vince McMahon there. Now, Russo used to try to make every one of the wrestling shows into essentially a Jerry Springer show, right? So all the things you would see on Jerry Springer, he tried to bring on the wrestling, and it hit a certain demographic, and that was cool. But he had a guy like Vince McMahon who was like, yeah, that kind of works. I'll kind of let a little bit of that go, but you got to get rid of the rest of the stuff. It's just going to taint the rest of the product. Okay, well, I'll stick to this little weirdo thing that's kind of going to get that niche audience. But for the most part, it's just kind of like the side dish. It's not the main course. The main course is still decided by Vince McMahon, right? You're just kind of getting some garnishments around the side with your little crazy stuff. But he had Vince there to control it, right? To Vince McMahon there to make sure his ideas weren't crazy. A guy who understood the business, understood how things worked, and understood, okay, that ain't gonna work. When he went to WCW, he didn't have that anymore, right? He just had a whole bunch of bad ideas in which he just tried to turn WCW into the Jerry Springer show. And doing that, he succeeded in turning into the Springer show. The problem is that nobody wanted to watch the Jerry Springer show. So all the people who have been traditionally there to watch wrestling, they stopped watching. because there's like, this is not a wrestling I recognize. 90% of this is just filth, and it has nothing to do with nothing. It's hard to follow. It's all over the place. I'll rather just go back. I'll just go watch WWE. I'm an alternative. With Skip, I think that's the danger he's come across. He's turned into a character. So most people know what he's going to say before he's going to say it, and most don't like the things he says. So if you're sitting there, you're like, why would I go somewhere? And like I said, and this Skip Bayless Offshoot podcast is a prime example of that. Why would I go somewhere and put myself in this position where I'm more than likely going to get something I already know what he's going to say before it comes out of his mouth? All he talks about is the Cowboys, LeBron, Tom Brady. And Tom Brady's gone. LeBron's out of the playoffs. It's going to be a real hard conditioning period because they say he's leaving after the NBA Finals. If he's leaving after the NBA Finals, what the hell is Skip going to talk about? The Cowboys? Every day nobody gives a shit about the Cowboys. So at this point, he's like, what is he going to talk? He has no more Tom Brady. Tom Brady's gone, so he can't talk about that anymore. So what is he going to talk? And this is going to be his auditioning period without Shannon Sharpe. And if they try to put him on there by himself, it's going to suck. I've tried to watch a Skip Bayless show on his YouTube channel. It is boring as hell. It is boring. He's unfiltered, and you would think that you were going to get some, but he's already unfiltered when he's on Undisputed. So it's not like you're getting a deeper, in-depth look at who Skip Bayless is. He generally doesn't have anybody who comes on the podcast with him. It's just him talking, and it is the most boring junk in the world. And I don't think he's going to be able to keep no audience by himself. So I think Skip is in trouble. I think those ratings are going to plummet like hell without Shannon there. And whoever they bring in, they better be really, really good. And it's not going to bode well, because Shannon is a hard act to follow. It's one thing to fill in for Shannon for a day or two. It's another thing to replace him. And I think that replacing him is going to be a real hard ask, because you're going to either get somebody who's going to try to mimic him, and that's going to bomb, or you're going to get somebody who is going to try to do something different completely, and that's going to bomb, because you got to be a very, very specific side dish to go with Skip being the main course, and with Shannon going, Skip is going to be the main course, and with Skip being the entree, being the main course, I think they're in trouble anyway. But like I said before, I think Shannon can pick up the pieces and start his own thing. I think Club Shay Shay is doing great, and I think he'll be able to do that over and over, and anytime he feels like it. The writing's on the wall when a lot of these guys, when Shannon had all these people to come to Club Shay Shay, but he couldn't get anybody who wanted to come on Undisputed. I think that's telling. A lot of these guys, when he was asking people to come on, he would always say, come on Club Shay Shay. He would always invite these people on Club Shay Shay. He never invited them on Undisputed. I think that's extremely telling. That he was not using his contacts to better the show. He was always using it to better Club Shay Shay. And I think in doing that, he ended up creating a problem with him and FS1. And I think in the end, he just decided to just bow out instead of dealing with it. And if that's the case, then that's one thing. If these alleged rumors are true, but I think Shannon needs to Skip and Shannon. The end of an era, amazing show for a long, long time. Almost 10 years now they've been together. So it's huge, man. It's huge. That this show as we know it, is ending, and that's the end of an era. Skip and Shannon were great TV for a long time, and now I don't really know. I think Shannon can be Shannon without Skip. I think Shannon can go anywhere and still be Shannon, because Shannon's kind of a goofball. He can be a goofball. He has so many. He's multifaceted. Skip is one note. He's one note. he's overly critical, and he's raunchy, and he's annoying, and he's gonna lose all his young demographic, and because all young dudes want to hear somebody who's constantly saying stupid shit all the time that is borderline insane, and you have to sit there and listen to him talk over and over and over again about these dumb things. But anyways, please let me know what y'all think. Are y'all sad to hear it? Is it a good thing? Let me know in the comment section below, and thumbs it up if you like it. And please, if you haven't subscribed. All right, y'all. Peace.